מסכת Bava Metzia, page 20. We'll start on page 19b, 5 lines from the bottom of the page. Subject of Zabla. Two people entered the domain of rabbinic court of Bet Din. As we learned in the past, each party needs to sign a paper that any decision from the three rabbinic judges that reside in a form of rabbinic court will be accepted in the parties. But there are some questions of disputation between parties and the idea of who can serve as a dayan, as a rabbi's judge. So we learned in Tractate and Dream in the past that there are different formulations of rabbinic court. It can be, if it's a mandatory disputation, a concept of Zabla, the Talmud in Tractate Sanhedrin 23. They discuss of the head of rabbinic court, and then each party can take a rabbi judge that they believe he is a trustworthy, and in that sense, ze bocher lo echad, each party take someone that they feel that is one who's going to bring justice, and the moment they sign the agreement with the court, then they basically cannot back out. Is that correct? Or things can change? And much more, understanding the court documentation, understanding the difference between modern days check and cash versus shtar-chov, a documentation that's written as a valuable of estate, of property, and much more. We're going to learn an abbreviation of code documentation when it's disputation between parties involved with a bill of divorce. Can be a knunya, can be a surreptitious, clandestine deal between husband and wife that try to take advantage of her ketubah or her bill of divorce. One example among many is the ketubah is a document that the husband commit himself to pay her in case of divorce or losing life X amount of money. Since that document carries a value, she can potentially sell that to someone else, even lower price, as a valuable potential document that can requires payment from her husband. It can be a setup, and we examine different situations, even a potential of double documentation of ketubah, bill of divorce, and things in that nature, based on what we call shovar bizmanot for a toref, or a dav bechatumav ezachin lo, those witnesses that sign when it's come to testimony of those witnesses. So much more than that we're going to cover today, daf, and let's start again, page 19b, 5 lines for the bottom of the page. Tanu Rabbanan, our rabbis taught in the Braita, Matzah shover. So here's a fellow, he just walked in the marketplace, for example, and he found a receipt for payment of a marriage contract. So Rashi expanded on that. When husband-wife, he writes for her a contract, and basically he commit himself in case of either divorce or passing to get, if it's a first marriage, 200 dinar, if it's a widow, it's a 100. So now all of a sudden this fellow found that agreement, and the question is, to whom he fulfill the mitzvah of return a lost item, to whom should that fellow bring that document? So the Gemara answered and said, Bizman sheha isha moda, if the wife admits that she received payment, so therefore it's clear that the husband paid her, and it belongs to him. So therefore, Yachazir Labal, he needs to return this document to the husband. The code explained to us in Choshen Mishpat, chapter 65, that's not just an issue of bill of divorce, but any documentation. However, En Ha'isha Moda, if it's a case that the wife does not admit that it was paid, now we have a problem, because it can go in many directions, who, what, and therefore we have no choice. Lo yachazir lo lazeh velo lazeh. The one who found it cannot return it neither to a husband nor the wife. חלקת מחוקק, בית שמואל, שער המשפט, many others ask the question of reuta, פרישה. They ask basically that document be collect, is worth to collect because it not belong to any party. But if you remember, just in the previous daf, we brought on the Mishnah the Shelot v'Tshuvot Pnei Yoshua, the grandfather of the Pnei Yoshua commentary, that he argued over concept we learn in many masechtot, hamotzi mechavero alav haraya, when there are two parties, the claimant and the defender, and the claimant has the burden of proof if he wants to have access to a state that he claimed that belongs to him. So the question is that applied here, or t'nai bedin, meaning since it's a court documentation, then that's part, since we not have hochacha, we don't have a proof that it was paid, so therefore, lo yachazir lo lazeh velo lazeh, he cannot return nor to neither to a husband nor to the wife. So the Gemara challenged us and said, "Bizman she'isha moda mihat yachazir labal." What do you say earlier? We said that if she agreed, so you return to the husband. So ולאיחוש דילמה כתבה ליתן בניסן ולא נתנה עד תשרי, ואז לה זמנתה ולכתובתה בטובת הנאה ניסן עד תשרי. This is something we discussed in the past, over predated. So it can be that it was written in the month of Nisan, and the physical time that receiving of the payment happens 6 months later, Tishrei. So meanwhile, what did she do? She take this marriage agreement, and she's just taking financial advantage. In the interim, she received some of the money, and in exchange, she agreed that if she were to be divorced or widowed, and become entitled to payment of a marriage contract, and the money will belong to the purchaser of the rights to her marriage contract. There are similar scenarios. The rabbis go at length. Rashi and others deal with the concept of tovat hana'ah. What exactly tovat hana'ah? So Rashi used the word klomar, and we knew that something bothers him. What exactly apply here? I think the idea of tovat hana'ah. What's the financial gain you have here? But he said, the whole idea of giving the money, again, let's use name. Yitzchak wrote the ketubah to Rivka. Okay? Now, the Rivka having the ketubah, but we have now a distance of 6 months. So our concern that Rivka went to some stranger and she sold that document for less money, and basically the selling is the right over accessing that amount of money in case of final stage of divorce or widow. And the question is that mean that she basically hold the right in her hand to sell, meaning in between until the husband not divorced her or passed away is nothing applicable. So in turn, she gained that financial gain. So that's the problem. There is a Ktsot HaChoshen and many other rabbis that have a discussion. What's the difference if it's a designated estate or other estate? The whole idea of Hamotzi Mechavero Alav Haraya, the burden of proof, applies upon the claimant, applies here. הוא מפיק לשובר דכתיב בניסן, ואת הנמטרף לקוחות שלא כדין. So meaning, it's part of the idea of potential of knunya, that can be surreptitiously, that after the couple is divorced and the purchaser collects payment of the marriage contract from the husband will produce the receipt that was written half a year earlier in Nisan and will repossess property from the purchaser unlawfully. So basically, potentially the one who get involved in this, the outside entities, can lose money for no reasons. The whole idea of knunya, it means it was set up between husband and wife to get advantage of outside sources and get that financial advantage. So the Rava explained, Amar Rava, page 20, Shma Mina. So you conclude from the idea here that you have this suspicion that it may be a trick, maybe set up, derived from here, Ita li Shmuel. So Rashi explained to us, Rashi used the word shenichtav lishma, which means that it's a potential that someone taking advantage of this, and someone is not. It's like set up. The Ita li Shmuel. The Amar Shmuel. What did Shmuel tell us? המוכר שטר חוב לחברו וחזר ומחלו. You have Reuven and Shimon, that Reuven sells a promissory note to Shimon, and then the Reuven, the seller, forgives the debt of Shimon. Machul. So it's forgiven. Why? Because Reuven is essentially had a non-transferable obligation to the creditor alone. So the Ktsot HaChoshen hold that this type of a promissory note, he claimed that you are not the party that can have a claim on that. But va'afilu yoresh mochel, even the creditor heir, meaning the children that inherited the estate, can forgive the debt. So as a result, in our discussion, if you have a husband-wife, and your wife did engage in the deception that we mentioned earlier, so it's her right, and she's able to forgive the debt of the marriage contract. Rashi have here Mahalach. He explained to us that she had the right to change the status by let go the debt from her husband. The Rosh Rabbeinu Asher said we take her word when she said that she returned that promissory note or to the paper to her husband the moment that was written, because we have Tanat Migo. If she wants to let go now, it can go retroactively. And the Mukhe Yosef and Ritva say that since she said that she gave it to him, that's also Maaseh Mechila. Anyway, it's a big discussion, Maharam Shif and many others. Abaye explained this brighter differently. Abaye Amar. Abaye goes to different views, so therefore, according to his avenue, is no proof to what Shmuel said. Abaye Amar afilu teima leitled with Shmuel. Even you go by saying that there is no halacha not follow Shmuel. Hacha b'maya skinan. Here we're dealing in this braita בששטר כתובה יוצא מתחת ידה. Here you have the marriage contract emerges from her possession, which you see here a clear indication that she did not sell it. ורבא אמר, Rava disagreed with this, and he said, אם משום שטר כתובה, if you tell me that the whole concept is because the marriage contract emerged from her possession, חיישינן לשתי כתובות. We are concerned over possibility that there are two separate marriage contracts that was written by the husband, and when she sold her ketubah to that fellow, it was one of them, and she kept for herself the second one. And therefore, the moment you, and that's basically the ketubah that she brings to the Bet Din, and if you return to the husband that document, you can be very concerned about some type of unlawfully repossession from their customers, and therefore is a problematic, because the only way for her to have hafka'ah, to take it away, is by do mechila to her husband, to let go. I want to know that is in a poskim. Based on this is a very broader discussion, even in that sense to our days, how you treated a note like a check. Check, as we all know, can be a cash check or cash written to, or check written to certain entity. But when you treat it as a shtar, say written note, can you do mechila over the check? For example, if Reuven wrote check to Shimon, and Shimon transmitted to Levi, and Levi transmitted check to Yehuda. So there are those early Rishonim, early sages that hold that for our discussion here is you have ne'emanut, her ne'emanut in the migo, but the Maran Achida, based on the concept we call kombei, which is those ancient time form of shtarot, is an open-ended discussion based on this Gemara. Now the Gemara explained the view of Abaye. First answer to what Rava said, Abaye amar chada lishtei ktubot lo chayshina, meaning even you are concerned about the view of Shmuel, we are not speaking about so seldom, so rare situation of writing two ktubot. And since she brought a ktubah, a marriage contract, it's clear that she didn't sell it. And you're not concerned about any form of cheating here, and you return it to the husband. Another point, ve'od, and furthermore, even you go by this view that she wrote the document of a receipt, the shovar, the note, in the month of Nisan, and since the husband did not pay her at the month of Nisan, it was delivered only half a year later at the month of Tishrei. In between, she sold that ketubah to others, and if you return that note to the husband with the date of Nisan, he can repossess it unlawfully against those purchaser, and in a way, if he'll do that, it's right. Why? Shovar bizmano tarif. Even if you tell me that the receipt can be used to repossess property from the time that it was written, even if it was given on the later day, that's the whole idea of zchiyah here. And you should know that there is a lot of halachic responsa based on this idea of shovar bizmano tarif. For a seed can be used to repossess property from the time it was written, even if it was given on the later day. Abaye leta'amei. Abaye conforms to his standard line of reasoning, as he says that once a monetary document is written for someone, that's what we learn on page 13, De'amar eidav b'chatumav zachin lo. When you have those eidim, those witnesses that come and sign on the document, their signature acquire it on his behalf. It's like the idea that the retroactive, lemafreya, receive their zchuyot. Based on this sugya is a disputation between the response of Chacham Tzvi versus Mas'ot Moshe. The case was Reuven, he lent money to Shimon, and Shimon was under tremendous pressure, and he basically took that he lent money to Shimon, and Reuven was under the financial pressure, so he basically sold that note to a non-Jew fellow, and it was a circumstance that they need to leave the community right away, and whatever it happens to a non-Jew, they forget it or whatever it is, they move to a faraway community. And Reuven now approached Shimon and he said, "You owe me so and so." Shimon obviously said, "I knew that you sold that document to that fellow non-Jew, and that's it. It is true that I owe you, but you don't have any document because you sold it to a non-Jew." Now the question is, can Reuven have zchut tvi'ah, the right to claim it, the right to go after Shimon just by the merely fact that he lent money to Shimon? Or you can say that the moment you sell it to a separate entity, that's right, so therefore you lose the right of collection, meaning does Shimon take the advantage and can gain the fact that he no longer owe anything to Reuven, if that relevant concept of mechila or not? It's an argument, as we said, between the Chacham Tzvi and Mas'at Moshe based on this sugya. So as you see, in a short conclusion, Abaye is not concerned of a cheating, even if the wife is not truthful, and she only giving the shovar, the document in Tishrei, but nevertheless the husband gained it retroactively. That's the whole idea in halacha lemafreya, and therefore we follow by the idea of eidav b'chatumav zachin lo, that the document witnesses with their signatures acquire it on his behalf. Those who disagree and hold that the husband hold the right only the moment he receives it in his hand, so therefore is a concern about all kind of surreptitious clandestine deal, but by the merely fact that the wife brought in her hand the ketubah, and we don't concern about two ketubot, that's the other view. Rava disputed on Abaye in two important points. Number one, he held that the husband did not acquire the right over the note only the moment he received the moment he received it in his hand. Number two, even if she brought the shtar ktubah, the marriage document, it's not a proof that she didn't sell it. Why? Because according to Rava, is a potential of double document, two ktubot, and therefore, since we're concerned that it may happen that the husband wrote two ktubot to her, the only reason you don't go that way is because the halacha follows Shmuel, that if someone mocher shtar chov lechavero, someone sold the promissory note to another person, and then v'chazar mechalo, and he let go, so it's machul, and therefore the purchaser cannot collect it. But as we said, there's a disputation. And now continue with the Mishnah Kedosha. So up to this point, the Mishnah speaks about those documents that we do not return, either because it may happen that it's already paid, or we're afraid that it's some type of clandestine deal, knunia. Here we talk the opposite, that it's a documentation that we don't have those chashashot, those concerns. Matzah igrot shum. If someone found, literally it's documents of appraisal, that the fellow owes him money, a little more. The word igeret comes from the Megillat Esther, the book of Esther, chapter 9, verse 29, which is promulgation, publication of information. The word shum have different avenues of understanding. There is those who, there is a point of view of Tosfot Yom Tov. You see it also in Sma, Baal HaTrumot, that say that because Ve'yaradnu lashum oto, Bet Din come down to do an appraisal for estate. And since it happens without the willingness or consent of the borrower, meaning since the lender come to Bet Din and said, I gave money to someone and he is not paying me, the Bet Din goes there to do a property valuation of the estate of the borrower. Now, it's important to know that if they do that without the presence of the borrower, that's what we learned earlier. It's shtar chaltata. If it's made in his presence, it's called igrot shum. Now, it's important also to know there is another view. The Shita Mekubetzet hold that it's just the literal idea of shtar shuma, which means Mr. B, who's not paid his debt, we Bet Din go and do evaluation of his estate, and they announce that it is a public auction of his estate. And if there's no one paid, then the Bet Din can go ahead and go for the possessions. But it's important, the Mefarshim, Ritva, and others say that it's not a proof of debt or collections, because the idea of the lender bringing a letter, promissory note, is a must before the Bet Din can go further, which means that shama'ut, that appraisal, is kind of part of the process, but it's not the legal document that the lender can come up and possess by the Bet Din igrot shum appraisal. Ve'igrot mazon. Here we have a situation. Women go for a second marriage or third marriage, whatever it is, and the newly husband, part of his marriage contract, marriage agreement, is to support a stepdaughter from her previous marriage life. So again, in a sense, they use the term igrot mazon, which means that it's a document that said that by the kinyan chalifin, by the matter of transactions, that the husband take upon himself at the time of the kiddushin betrothal. So some said it's in kinyan, not kinyan, but the Rashash said that it's just re'ayah, just some type of evidence that he cannot retrieve his commitment. But it's called igeret because the husband is promulgated it, tell people that it's important that he agreed to be an extraordinary person who willing to support financially his stepdaughter, the one that the wife brought from her previous marriage life. That's the way to spot Yom Tov. The Rabbeinu Yonatan Shita Mekubetset say that the Igrot Mazon is a promissory note that Bet Din provided that by going to the estate of the husband and evaluate in exchange of the amount that he need to pay the support of that stepdaughters. Ritva also have an explanation, but just give you the abbreviation, there are many. The next one is Shtarei Chalitza. So the document of Chalitza, we learn it in Tractate Yevamot. Bet Adin brings to the Leyavama a document that she received the Chalitza, meaning the whole act of, rejection, taking off the shoes, etc. And that document is for her capability in the future to go ahead and to be married to whoever she wished to. Umei Unim, document of refusal of a girl upon reaching majority to remain married to the man to whom her mother or brother married her as a minor after the death of her father. And again, this is something that we discuss a lot in the beginning of Tractate Kiddushin, page 3, the way that she betrothed the father in her early age, in Masechet Ketubot, page 46. The rabbinic enactment is when she reached the maturity, she can either accept or reject that act of Kiddushin, and if she rejected it based on Mishnah in Yevamot 107, she can go ahead and be out of that marriage. There's a disputation if you need the bedin of 3 or not. Basically, the Shulchan Aruch hold that in Ibn Ezer 155 that it's enough, as Rashash mentioned, by the 2 witnesses. But here the Mishnah speaks about a situation of her refusal at the front of the Bet Din, because the only Bet Din can provide a legal document that she's can go ahead and move on in her lives. That's the emphasis the Rashash said, that she received Kibla mi Bet Adin, she received the document from the Bet Din, Ushtarei Berurim, so document of Berurim, a concept that will be explained later on in our Sugya between the parties. We talked about it earlier also in pages 12, 13 and 16, but later on in Gemara we explain on that. V'chol ma'aseh bet din, harei ze yachzir. And any act of rabbinic court enactment, which is a shtarei chalta'a and shtarei adrachta, which is a promissory note that has been authenticated by the rabbinic court. As we said, anyone who found those documentation, harei ze yachazir. So he needs to return the document to the one who presumed he is the owner. because the איגרות שום, שטרי חלטאתה והדרכתה, שייך בהם פירעון, paying applicable, so therefore you return to malve, to the lender. שטרי ברורים to those litigant, and איגרות מזון to the mother of that stepdaughter. שטרי חליצה ומימונין, you bring it to the one who is either received the chalitza or the refusal. The Chidushei Harim expand that, and he said, Adam lo ne'eman sheshilem chov merosh. A person does not take credit that he prepaid for that. But we so far learned that if it's a get lost and was found, we not concerned that that's the get that was lost, and now the Mishnah continue and elaborate when you return other form of documentation that they are not part of Maaseh Bedin category. Matzah b'chafisa. If one found documentation in like a jar, or Kamma, both some type of containers, jar. And the person said that I have my things there. So Rashi explained to us that that was designated in those days. It's a disputation among the Rishonim, the Shtam Kubetzet, the Ramban. When is the time that you can retrieve it? If it's at the beginning of the session, or up to the close to the Gemara Din, the verdict, if they can retrieve it. But anyway, מצא בחפיסה בדלוס קמה, תכריך של שטרות, a roll of documents, או אגודה של שטרות, or a bundle of documents, הרי זה יחזיר. He must return there to whoever give the siman, the sign. וכמה אגודה של שטרות, and how many documents are considered to be a bundle of 8 documents. So the Mishnah said, שלושה קשורים זה בזה. You have here 3 documents that tied together. רבן שמעון בן גמליאל אומר, אחד הלווה משלושה יחזיר ללווה. שלושה הלווים מן האחד יחזיר למלווה. If you look at the documents and you see references that this is a loan that one single person borrow money from 3 different people. So you assume that it belongs to that person, to the borrower, and he just lost it. If the other way around, שלושה הלווים, 3 names of 3 people who borrow money from one person, יחזירם למלווה, you return it to the creditor. Again, we assume, presume that just the lender lost it. How that otherwise get together all these 3 documents in one bundle? מצא שטר בין שטרותיו ואינו יודע מה טיבו. You have all these bunch of documents, and he found one document that were given to him by other people as a trustee. You have no clue, he doesn't remember who gave it to him or whether the debt mention is being paid or not paid. יהא מונחת שיבוא אליהו. So there is no way but the end of the days, which means you cannot return it neither to the lender nor to the borrower until things will clarify. The En Yehosef and the other Mefarshim, Netivot HaMishpat, Divrei Mishpat, expand on that, why you go this direction, that you don't give anyone, but as long as it's such a heavy predicament, they leave it like that. אם יש עמהן סימפונות, but if there are cancellation of contracts among them, which means because he cannot collect the money because it appears that it's already paid, יעשה מה שבסימפונות. So he should do what is stated in the cancellations of the contract. The whole idea is that the borrower trusts the lender and he left it by him, and then he totally forgot to take it back. Later the Gemara in the other side of the daf expanded that simphon, it's something that abrogated, annulled the previous one. For example, if you find a blemish on a servant, etc., or its wife, that's basically bitul maaseh kiddushin. Here we talk about a document that abrogated the promissory note. So now the Gemara expand on the documents of berurin. Mai shtarei berurin. What exactly you mean to say when you use the term berurin? Hacha tergemu, here in Babylon tergemu, they did translate it, shtarei ta'anata, which means you have the document that the Safra de Daine, the recording secretary, writes what each litigant saying to the Bet Din, and is like a record what each party was saying, because as long as it's not written, as Gemara in Bava Batra 31 said, each one can retrieve or said, I didn't say it, I did say it, but when a moment is written in the minutes, what they said, that's shtarei berurin, according to one view. Rabbi Yirmiyah lived in Israel, so he said that the meaning is different, and he said, based on what we learn in Sanhedrin 23, זה בורר לו אחד וזה בורר לו אחד. Meaning, that's the zabla. When you go before the Bet Din, as we said in the introduction, they need to sign up that they're accepting the decision of the Bet Din. Since there are those who feel that this rabbinic judge is in favor or maybe in either party, so we give a chance in those cases sometimes to pick one of the three. So it means it's a big question how you chose the third one, but in general, it's a disputation among the Tanaim, but Reuven can choose a rabbinic judge that he feels comfortable to be a judge. Shimon, the other litigant, choose a Dayan, a rabbinic judge that feels it's fair, and then the third one, the third one make decision. So that's the concept of Zabla, each of them take one, and they מתחייבים לקבל פסק הדין, they accept upon themselves the rule of the court. So that's what it means, according to Rabbi Yirmiyah from Eretz Israel, the concept of shtarei berurin, the documentation that brings the claimant and the decision that's applied to the Zabla, according to Yomiyah. So you see here a different view between those who translated in Babylon and Rabbi Yirmiyah in Eretz Israel. In general, we shall know when it's come to Batei Din, they strive always as a goal to go for pshara, for some type of middle road of reconciliation, which modern days you call it arbitration. וכל מעשה בדין, הרי זה יחזיר. The Mishnah tells us that any rabbinic court enactment, the one who found it must return it to his presumed owner. Here is a story. ההוא גיטה להשתכח בידידא דרב הונא. So here we have the get, the bill of divorce that was found at the Bet Din of the rabbinic court of Rav Huna. The Havak Tivdei that was written there, that Reuven divorced Tamar bishvirei matad al rachis nahara, that he divorced her, and the location was written, the get was written in Shvirei city, which is located in Rachish River. As you know, that's part of the requirement to put the specifications such as location and more. So the agent of the get came, that was sent by a resident of that city, and it's matching the information on the get. And he said, I lost it, and I want to fulfill my mission, my call, and to handle that in order to divorce her. So Rav Huna said, page 20b, Chayshinan lishnei shvirei. So the idea is that we are concerned that it may be two cities that have these names Shvirei, and therefore the get may belong to someone else who live in the other city named Shvirei. I'm sure you remember that just several dapim ago we talked about the Rashash. Rashash presented as a question. Other Mefarshim goes by a statement. Now, the Tosfot in Gittin 27 and Rashi here also say that even Af al Pi שבשבירי הידוע לנו אין בה שני יוסף בן שמעון, even we know unequivocally, clearly, that in the city of Shvirei that we are familiar with, there are no two people by the name of Yosef ben Shimon. It is a possibility that Shema yesh Shvirei acheret, maybe there is another city which carry the same name, sheyesh ba, Rashi said, Yosef ben Shimon, that it is another city that match the same name of these two, of the husband and wife, and therefore v'sham nichtav u'mishaleach acher nafal. So it can be one city Shvirei, another city Shvirei. That city, let's use the Rashi's name, Yosef ben Shimon, and the other Shvirei is also Yosef ben Shimon. Here you have a shaliach, an agent, and there they have a shaliach agent for the get. And it may happen that it just go the other city. Ritva Eden said, how about if the same city, especially in a not a little village but in a large city. So as we said, Rashash presented as a question, the same as several dapim ago, and Rashi, it's a general statement, but anyway, that's the notion, that's the idea that we are not returning it. Amar le Rav Chizda le Rabba, Pok Ayen. Both were students of Rav Chizda. So he said, come and dig in, understand this halakha. Deleuta ba el Rav Una minach. Because guess what happened? The Rav Una is going to, in the evening, to ask you about it. If you remember, we learned it in page 18. Nafak, so Rabbah left. Dak ve'ashkach, so he really dig in and examine the halakha. And he found a proof to that. Ditnan, because we learned the Mishnah, Kol ma'aseh bet din harei ze yachazir. He said, anything that made in our rabbinic court enactment, meaning one found a shtar chov, a promissory note, that it's written there handpeg, that it's written there a clear certificate from the Bet Din that proves the document, the note, the witnesses that signed that. So that's basically get mekuyam. So that's vadaya get sheneva. That's clear that that's the get. That's the maaseh bedin. That's the shtar. That's the document that made by the Bet Din. So therefore, harei ze yachazir. So the person who found it, he must return it to the one who presumed the owner. Now, because it's maaseh get, because it's a bill of divorce that were found in the rabbinic court, it belongs to this category and should be returned. So the Gemara asks, Amar le Rab Amram le Rabba, Heiche pashit mar isura mimamona. We have two different subjects in studies. One is isura, which is a matter or prohibitions involving ritual matters, which is in that sense isur veheter. What we said earlier, not concerned about another get and things like that, versus for someone that involved with mammonot, which is discussion over monetary disputation, which is by merely fact that we say that we return to the lender that note that he lost, we cannot derive from there that you return to the shaliach, the agent of the get, that get, because it's apple and orange. Mammonot is monetary disputation, it's one thing. Shaliach, you allow her to go ahead and marry, it's totally different things. The isura chamirta, when it's come to issue of ritual matter, we take it in a much serious way. So, Amar Lei, Rabbah said to Rav Amram, Tarda. Now, you should know that Tarda, for those who not take it like, if you take by the language of Rashi here, Rashi used the word meshuamam, like you are bored, or someone who's full. Others say that someone is lazy. A few idea. Rabbeinu Chanel go further to say that someone who's constant secretion come off his mouth. It's just like very strong language. Chavot Yair, a discussion in Kuf Nun Bet in 152, in the exceptional situation that the Rab can do a word of admonition, strong word of admonition to his students, in order to make sure that they listen and pay attention properly. Rabbah is considering higher than Rav Amram, so the assumption is that Avram don't mind, but he's calling Tarda, Shtarei Chalitza U'Me'unim Tnan. Here, our discussion talk about documentation involved with Chalitza and documentation of refusal, those, as we said earlier, that allow that woman to go ahead and marry. She was married off as a young one, underage, and then she can go ahead and marry. There is a very important Pnei Yoshua in this sugya, and that expand on the whole mahalach here. We do not have time, but if you please have the Babylonian time, please read the Pnei Yoshua. Here the Gemara goes further with the story. Paka arza devei Rav, frightening story, that while they have this type of the dialogue, one of the pillars in the Beit HaMidrash, in the house of Academy of Study, just collapsed. Meaning he was leaning, and Mar Amar, Rav Amram said, you know what happens? Mishum latai didi paka. Because I have a bad mazel, which means that due to my fortune that it's dissolved, as you spoke to me offensively, you denigrated me. Umar Amar, and Rabbah said, Mishum latai didi paka. Just the other way around, because of my fortune, but my mazel that it's dislodged, as it was you who spoke to me offensively. Like you denigrated me. So there is a discussion, תלמידי חכמים, the Torah scholars should be נוחים זה לזה, should be good to each other. חידושי הגדול דמרשה explained that it wasn't any form of self-arrogance or anything like that. They just the other way around, they complain about their misfortunate that caused that crisis. Rashi tells us in a very beautiful way, he said, מה רבה משום לתי דידי פקע בשביל מזני שכנראה שגידפתני because you offended me. ומה רבה משום לדדדית פקע ששבת דבר לברי שני בבית המדרש. We derive from here the great sakana, the great dangerous, said Charva Yerushalayim, there's a lot of crisis of bizui talmidei chachamim, that people mock down or denigrate Torah scholar. Unfortunately, we are the end of the day era, and people just disregards the great honor and kavod that we should have for Torah scholars. As the Mishnah at the end of Sotah said, that chutzpah yazgei, and is a story about one of the students of Maran Chazon Ish, whose name is Rabbi Yosef Dinkel. Fortunately, he died childless, but he was one of the world-renowned Torah scholars, and was one matter of halacha that he disputed my teacher, Reb Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. It was a halachic disputation, and the story goes that when he saw him in one of the funerals, he went there and he hugged him, and they are very personal friends. So it's like Hillel and Shammai. It's not personal. It's not a. But the derivative, obviously, the way Rashi referred to us and others, Marsha, is that the dangers of having any bizayon talmidei chachamim, someone who is a Torah scholar, we should be extra cautious, extra careful to give them the most kavod we can. The Mishnah tells us, מצא בחפיסה או בדלוס כמה. So if one found a document, a shtar, inside the חפיסה or דלוס כמה, so he must return them. מהי חפיסה? What is חפיסה? אמר רבא בר חנא, חמת קטנה. חמת קטנה, it's a small flag. מהי דלוס כמה? אמר רבא בר שמואל, קליקה דסווה. So Rashi explained that's part of the sign that it's his. Rashi and Mishnah, דיבור מתחיל הרי. Because Tosfot Yom Tov and Mishnah said that usually people don't put the shtarot there, but not everyone goes like that. There are those who dispute it and disagree, and they hold that צריך שיהיה סימן ברור, that needs to be a very clear סימן, that in order שיקרא שלו, in order to make sure that it's his. The Mishnah teaches us, תחריט של שטרות או אגודה של שטרות. If one found documents, found the roll of document or bundle of documents, כמה תחריט של שטרות. How many documents you put together that we call it תחריט, we call it like it's a document that rolled together. So they said, שלושה כרוכים זה בזה. You have three that bundled together. So if someone said, I found documentation, and someone said, yeah, it's mine, it's a three that folded together, so Rashi explained that you return it. וכמה אגודה של שטרות, what exactly considering a bundle of documents? שלושה קשורים זה בזה. You have three shtarot, three notes that tied together. So the Gemara commented on that and said, Shmat mina, kasher siman. So we write from here that type of knot can serve a distinguishing mark, which means that the owner can describe the item and it returned to him. That's Rashi explained. We learn that in מסכת Shabbat, the whole idea of melechet kosher, it's a different type. My teacher and mentor, Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, in the Shmirat Shabbat Kilchata by Rav Neuwirth, and others expand on the idea of different form of kshira, different form of knotting, that some of them is permissible, some of them not, kosher al not le'atir v'chen ha'aleh. But the key idea is that there is a different form of kshira, of knotting them. So here, what's the siman? So the Gemara said, Hatana is a rejection. Hatanei Rabbi Chia shlosha kruchin זה בזה. You have three documents that roll together. So that because they roll together, that's considering a distinguishing man. קיפל אחד בתוך השני. He folded one inside the other. So the Gemara asked, if that's the case of bundling, haynu tachrich, if this is identical case, the same as a roll of documents. So the Gemara said, תכריך כל חד וחד בראשה, דחברי אגודה דירמו ההדדי וכרוכות. So they said, a roll, it's when you have each and every one of the documents located at the top of one another, which means you have here the roll together, and the top of each page is near the bottom of the previous one. A bundle, however, is where they are located one at the top of the other and they are rolled together. So the Mishnah said if someone found a lost item, a document, so he said, Machriz, he proclaimed, my Machriz, what exactly he proclaimed that the owner can claim for it? So he said, Min Yan, the number of documents that he found, and the owner can describe by saying that they are rolled together. My Iriyat Lata, so why the Mishnah speaks about finding three, Afilu Trein Nami, even if he found two, it's sufficient to proclaim Ela. Ravina. Ravina, this is something we're going to study on page 25. Tiv'a machriz, achana meishtarei machriz. So here, Ravuna said, if a person finds the coins, so he simply proclaims that he found coins. He doesn't specify the number of coins that he found. So here too, the finder proclaims that he found documents, and the owner describes them by both their exact number and the fact that they roll together. And as a result, if there are only two documents, the description is deficient, as the number two is already implicit in the final proclamation that he found documents, which is plural. Rashi tells us here so beautifully. Rashi said, טיבה מכריז, הכנה משטרים מכריז, שטרות מצאתי, וזה צריך שאומר, כך וכך היו כרוכים היו. You need to describe how exactly it put together. הילקח, and consequently, דווקא תלתה, דווקא 3, but tray only 2, מעילה ידיע דמיעוט שטרות 2 בין מניין סימן. Anyway, the way that Rashi, it is a Maharshal in Chokhmat Shlomo that expand on Rashi, why you need two simanim. There is a Ktsot HaChoshen in 65 and Tivot HaMishpat, expand why, למה צריך שני סימנים, why you need the two סימנים. רבן שמעון בן גמליאל אומר, the Mishnah tells us, if Yaakov borrowed from Reuven, and Yaakov borrowed from Shimon, and Yaakov borrowed from Levi, so for sure it belongs to Yaakov. רבן שמעון בן גמליאל אומר, one found 3 שטרות, 3 documents of a person, אחד הלווה משלושה יחזיר ללווה. So one borrowed from 3 people, he must return them to that the Salkadatach de Malvininu, that if you tell me that it belonged to the one who's lending, the creditors, those promissory notes belong to him, so therefore, my ba'u gabei hadadei. So why they are being together? Why all three combined together? You have to say that it belonged to the borrower. After he paid off his debt, the lender returned the original promissory note, and he just lost them. So they said, Dilma lekiyumin hu azal. You can say that the three creditors all went to rabbinic court in order to ratify their promissory notes, and the note was lost together over there. So they said, Dilma lekayumin hu azlei. So they said the Mishnah here referring to a case where the promissory notes are ratified. So if they're ratified, meaning you can have a case that all the three goes to the Bet Din in order to assure their signature on the documentation, and they send them to the Safra Daina, the one who writes the documents, and the Shaliach lost it. There is a discussion among the Achronim, and you see it also in the Rishonim, you see it in Maram Shif and Rashash and Ritva, discussion based on this Rashi, how exactly they lost, if it's during the time they get to the Sofer. Anyway, the Gemara said, Dim Kaimei. You have to say that they Dil Kaimei. So the promissory notes are ratified. So Mishnah speaks about those documents that were written. So you can't say that on the way to the Sofer, they lost them. The Gemara asked, Dilma mida de safran afil. So all kind of possibility. They said maybe it happens that they fell from the hand of the scribe, the Safra Daina, the scribe of the rabbinic court, after he ratified them. So they said, Lama she'inish kiyume bi'ida de safrei. Usually a person does not leave his ratified promissory note in a possession of the court scribe. So you have to think about a situation that the promissory notes were lost by the one who owed, the borrower. It's also the Tosfot Rosh and Ritva said that you'll not be concerned here that maybe another Shaliach took it from the scribe in order to return to the original owner, because the moment that the handpick was written, Tosfot Rosh explained, so the usual manner is that the owner of that promissory note himself go and collected them. So therefore, if it was documented belongs to the one who lent the money, it's very unlikely that all of them will be at the same location. The Ritva expand on that. Now we talk about the other way around scenario. The Mishnah said, מי שמצא שלושה שטרות על שלושה שלוו מאחד יחזיר למלווה. So here, one who found three reference to a loan of what? Reuven borrowed from Yaakov, Shimon borrowed from Yaakov, Levi borrowed from Yaakov. So he needs to return it to the creditor. The Gemara expand on that. How do you know that it belongs to the creditor? That if you think that this promissory note belongs to the borrower, my ba'u gabei hadadei. Why these promissory notes are together? How they are collected to one location all together? You see how smart are our sages. So therefore, it has to be part of the lender's belonging. So the Gemara asks, isn't that possible to have a scenario that it belongs to the borrower? And I said, דילמה למכתבין הוא אזלי. Maybe is a scenario that it was written in 3 different court scribes that lost by the scribe, and somehow they are in the same locations. For example, you have 3 bowers that went to 1 scribe, that he writes for each of them his document, and that lost. So, which means they trace a modern day scenario. The 3 people went to the Gemach, and they that belonged to Yaakov, and on the way they go to a scribe, and on the way they lost it. So you have to say that this is an area of that the promissory notes are written in the handwriting of 3 different scribes. V'dilma lekaymin hu azlei. So maybe those who borrow went to the rabbinic court in order to ratify the promissory note, and they lost them there. So the Gemara said, malve mekayem shtarei, love lo mekayem shtarei, which is the creditor who ratifies his promissory note. The borrower do not ratify his promissory note. So it means that's the derech, that's the manner of which it would usually Rashi in Gittin 27 expand. But the idea is, even you tell me that they are fell on the way to the sofer that writes this ratification, it belongs to the lender and not to the borrower. The Mishnah Akdosha tells us, אם יש עמהן סימפונות, יעשה מה שבסימפונות. One should, if you have the time to see Shulchan Aruch Harav Baal HaTanya, הלכות הלוואה, סעיף למד א', also the Shach, the Siftei Kohen, on Choshen Mishpat Nun Tet. But let's first Rashi remind us the concept of simfon. Let's read it by Rashi. Simfon שובר המבטל שטר, וכל דבר המבטל דבר קרי סימפון. Meaning anything that have any form of cancellation of something else, of document or anything else. Soon Rashi give example. Kede'amar, here is an example, that's ignoring Ketubot 57b. גבי קידושי אישה ומכירת עבד, שהמום קרוי סימפון מפני שמבטל את המקח. So for example, in those days someone purchased a servant. If there are blemish that found, and vice versa, if there are blemish that develop later on, so the same way as Kiddushei Isha, that simfon, those blemishes can change the status, the same here. So the Mishnah Kedosha tells us, if there are cancellations of contracts among one's document, which means the creditor, the malveh, he discovered among all the documents he had a document that was not handed over to the borrower. And it's written there that one of the debt was paid. Ya'aseh ma shebasimfonot. So he should do what it stated in that document. Now the question is, what exactly transpired? And soon you see the development based on the Shulchan Aruch Choshen Mishpat Nun Tet, the Shach and more. Try to speak modern days language. There are, Baruch Hashem, many Kupot Gmach, Gmilut Chasadim, the Hebrew free loan, that people need to marry their kids, people develop businesses, they need loans. So obviously there are different loans for different needs, but trace the situation that someone manages a gemach and there are many borrowers, and especially in a situation that is no computerized and they have files for every borrower, and there are many. So the good news is, Baruch Hashem, we have a community caring situation that people help each other, which is a huge mitzvah. Yet it can be for many reasons. For example, the borrower give and take and change and bring and back and forth for different loans, or represent different loans, and vice versa. So there is a book called Tzemach HaSadeh, wonderful book. The very end of that book, he expands on situations like that based on the Shulchan Aruch Choshen Mishpat from 56 to 59 chapter. Is the idea that there are so many scenarios, such as someone decided to take X amount of loan and then he collected just part of that because he realized he doesn't need that, or someone who basically not sure if he paid, or the creditor is not sure if he was paid, and both parties are not definite. So in our discussion, when you have situation like that, soon you see the statement of Rav. If someone found a document and it's not clear, so far the Mishnah said, if there are cancellation of contracts among one's document, so he should do what it states in the Sinfonot. But what do you do in a situation when you have this shovar, this document, in the hand of the malveh, of the creditor, and it's written in a statement, so it can be many variations of statement. For example, he thought that the borrower is about to come and pay him, and in order for that to happen, the borrower needs to have a document that the debt was paid, so he already prepared something for him. But it can be that the borrower did not pay it. But the fact that the lender found the document doesn't mean that it's a proof that the borrower already paid it. So let's see the הוראה. אמר רב ירמיה ברבא אמר רב, סימפון, שזה שובר, a document, היוצא מתחת ידי מלווה. So here you have this document that emerges from the possession of the malveh, the lender, the creditor. אף על פי שכתוב בכתב ידו. Listen carefully. Even the creditor wrote it in his own hand. אינו אלא כמשחק ופסול. This is an important word. He said here, we take it that he is merely jesting, and therefore the shovar, the symphon, is invalid. He said it's written in his own hand, it's not forged. So there are a few points I'd like to add. First is the Shach, Choshen Mishpat Nontet 59. Bring the scenario, as we said earlier. In those days, the lender, the creditor, in order for the borrower to pay back the creditor, the borrower needs to have the creditor write down that he was paid. Almost like separate documents, not just returning or turning the document, but giving the borrower a document that proves that it was paid. It may be, as we said, that the creditor wrote down and the borrower didn't show up, didn't pay. Now, the Shach expanded on that, and he said, if both party, meaning the lender, the creditor, and the borrower, are not sure, so the Shach said, מעמידים את השטר בחזקתו, you make it like it's valid. Pnei Yoshua asked, what do we learn in the Mishnah? We learn in the Mishnah on page 18, clearly a statement that said, מצא שוברים לא יחזיר. If the fellow found a document, you should not return them. Why? Because it may be כתובים היו ונמלך לרשום אותם, that it was written and then decided not to give it. So it means it's not valid. So the whole idea is because it's safek, because it's not clear, the Pnei Yoshua and others said, therefore you cannot use it. Now, soon you see up to the end of the sugya, the end of the parak, that it's based on this statement of Rabbi Yomi Barabba on behalf of Rav. לא מבעיה, כך כתוב בכתב יד סופר, דעיקה למימר ספרה יתרם אלה וכתב. So, for sure you don't need, it's not necessary to state when it's written in the handwriting of a scribe. Why? It happens on the way to some place, the creditor saw the scribe, he asked him to write in a document, to have it ready whenever the borrower comes to pay, so you have it. אלא אפילו כתוב בכתב ידו. Even the creditor himself wrote, meaning he knew how to write this note by himself. We assume logically that it was not prepared by the creditor in advance. Why should he rush to write it for the borrower? And nevertheless, Abdul Barabba said that it's invalid. Why pasul? Why savar? And this is sometime in Yiddish you call it kunzing. I don't know how to say it, but it's all kind of tricks that borrowers plays different tricks. Savar dilma mitrami va'ate ben hashmashot v'karali. So he comes just before, twilight, before Shabbat, before holiday. I didn't have the time to write this document, and he does that. You see, sometimes people use and abuse the system. They know certain days, banks and lending institutions are closed, so they use that to take advantage of those days. They write check the time of holidays when they know that it's full 4 or 6 or even 8 days that the banking institution is closed. The ilo yahivna lei, lo yahiv li zuzei. Figure out, before twilight, I don't have the time to write for him. She said, forget it, I'm not paying you now. So I know that this guy, I had bad experiences with him. I even regret that I gave him the loan, the first place. But I don't want him to pay any tricks. So I, meaning the creditor, wrote down a documents that said that he paid him, and he prepared it. The moment he comes, even it's Erev Shabbos or Erev Yontiv or whatever it is, to have it ready to give him. So the Gemara asks, "Tnan im yesh imahen simfonot ya'aseh ma shebasimfonot." So the Gemara challenged what the Rav said. We learn if there are simfonot among one's document, he should do what it states in a simfonot. So what you see here, apparently you see here that the simfonot, they are in the possession of the creditor. So the Gemara explained, כי דאמר רב ספרא שנמצא בין שטרות קרועים, הכנה משמצאו בין שטרות קרועים. So there's a few גרסאות. If it's a קרועים, meaning torn documents, he found it among the torn document, or פרועים, paid document. Let's see Rashi. Rashi brought here two different ideas, one on behalf of his Rabotav and his teacher, but the most important part is the second explanation of Rashi himself. So let's give a moment to beautiful Rashi here. דיבור המתחיל בין שטרותיו קרועים. והוא אינו קרוע, לפיכך סומכים על השובר במקום השטר, מוכיח על השובר שהוא אמת, שאם לא נפרד לא נותן השטר אצל השטרות קרועים, כך שמעתי. So if it wasn't paid, you will not put it among those torn documents. And then Rashi said that's the most important part. ולי נראה, Rashi said, I think the truth is, שנמצא השובר בין השטרות קרועים. That document was found among those torn documents. הלקח, and consequently is therefore איכא למימר, you may say, שנתקבל החוב, that already the borrower paid it. והשובר הזה אין צריך למלווה הזה, אלא ללווה. והלווה שכח ביד זה. So here we talk about the situation that the borrower forget to collect it. לפיכך נתנו זה עם השטרות שהם צריכים לו. So the lender put it among those documents that it's already paid. דיסל כדתך מלווה כתבו, להיות מוכן לו שירצה לווה לפרעה, לא נתנו עם שטרות שהם צריכים לו. Beautiful. Rashi said here, let's use an example of gmach. Let's say Meir managing a gmach. This great Reb Meir have files for hundreds of borrowers. And you have those other files of document that was paid and torn. Israel come to Meir and he's claimed that he paid it. Now we found a document among the torn documents. So we figured out, according to the second explanation of Rashi, that the malveh, the creditor, will not put this document among those paid off torn documents if it wasn't paid to him. Isn't that beautiful? Tashma. So now the Gemara asks on Rabbi Moshe from different Mishnah. This is Mishnah in Bava Batra, page 172. תשמע נמצא לאחד בין שטרותיו שטרו של יוסף בן שמעון פרוע, שטרות של שניהם פרועים. So here the Gemara in Bava Batra speaks about a situation that they have two people and the name, just for our discussion, Yosef ben Shimon. And then he found a document that said that Yosef ben Shimon paid him. Now we enter the domain of Hamutzi Mechavero Alav Haraya. The burden of proof, it's upon the claimant. How do you prove it? How do you prove since you have two? So the Meforshim expand on that one should write Yosef ben Shimon ben Menashe and Yosef ben Shimon ben Ephraim. But if it was just not the grandpa's name on the document, but just the father written twice, it's a potential that he lost both money because things were not in order and the lender had the burden of proof. And this basically contradicted what Rabbi Abba said, that when you have this document in the hand of the creditor is not valid and doesn't need to follow what's written. אמר רב ספרא שנמצא בין שטרות קרועים, some said פרועים, החנמי שנמצא בין שטרות קרועים. As we said, all of a sudden he found that among those documents was already torn. So you figure out why he put it there and he didn't put it elsewhere. So all the Mefarshim based on that, even in Choshen Mishpat. Since it was located in the place that already people paid, among those paid Puin or torn Puin, and you put it there as a creditor, you lost. The Moshe Feinstein Zatzal brought in several teshuvot the importance when you have documentations to write also the last name. and to write the last name of the aiding to and everything. So in order to avoid confusion, who belongs to who, in this way you have a better order and less aggravation, less problems. Another challenge of Rabbi Moshe Weisblum, that's a Mishnah in Shvuot 45, Tashma, שבועה שלא פקדנו אבא, ושלא אמר לנו אבא, ושלא מצאנו בין שטרותיו של אבא, ששטר זה פרוע. So here you have an orphan of the lender, and it's basically said that they're taking an oath, and they said, oath that our father did not instruct us on his deathbed, that the debt mentioned in the promissory note was repaid, not the father said on an earlier day that it was repaid, not defined among the documents that the father stated. So they basically, you see indication that when you have this simphon, when you have this document, even if it's found in the possession of the creditor, and that's basically contradicted what Rabbi Moshe said, that he said that if you have a document in the hand of the creditor, so it's invalid, and you don't need to follow what it's written. אמר רב ספרא, שנמצא בין שטרות קרועים, the same answer that it found among those torn documents. It's a story that occurred in Switzerland, in the Jewish community in Zurich. So these go back years ago in one of the teshuvot. So it was a trustees, and the trustees of the community gave on a weekly basis to the one who in charge was like the second treasurer or the shamash, the assistant, money to pay different expenses. One of them is to the maintenance group. And one time the head treasurer, the head trustees, he left the city, he went out of state. And when he came back, the maintenance people said they didn't get paid. Now the assistant, the shamash, said, I paid them. I think I paid them. So now the trustees, the treasurer, went to the books, and he saw it's written in 3 different documents, that's way before computers, that it was paid to the shamash, to the assistant, in order to pay the maintenance before he left. So now they brought the question to the Rav of the community, and he brought in the Shuva, the sugya we discussed several times, Chenvani al Pipim Kaso, the sugya that said that since you have here, in one hand, the maintenance guys that said that they not get paid, and you have the head trustees, the head treasurer that said that he documented it, that he gave it to the assistant. So therefore, the rules, the poskim there, that the shamash, the assistant, needs to pay out of his pocket because based on our sugya, based on the same logical reasoning in our sugya. Tashma, simfon sheyesh alav yitkayem bechotmav. So if you have this simfon, which witnesses are signed, is ratified by means of his signatories. So now you have here the Bet Din, the rabbinic court, needs to verify the validity of the witness signatures and therefore ratifies the document, which means that include the simfon that is in the possession of the creditor. Eima itkayem mechotmav. See, the difference is from mechotmav, not bechotmav. See the difference between, if you use bechotmav, it's by means of its signatories, and mechotmav, meaning by obtaining confirmation from its signatory. Page 21, דשיילינן להו לסהדי, אי פרוע, אי לא פרוע. So here we ask the witnesses, which means the Bet Din asked the Eidim that sign on the document, did you see that was the pay or it's not repaid? Because the lender, we believe him that the only reason he wrote this, we said it will be ready whenever the other guy comes in, and he will be able to give it. That's basically what Rabbi Moshe said. Tashma simfon sheyesh alav edim kasher, which means the Ravid explained, you have here a simfon, the witnesses are signed, is valid. So it's valid even if it's found in the possession of the creditor, and there's no distinction is made. And the Ravid explained that if they are AD, then it's valid, and you don't consider that it may written by the creditor before it was paid. My AD, what exactly? Witnesses? So he said Eidei Kiyum, witnesses of ratification, which means that Simfon was ratified by the rabbinic court, proves its validity. הכנה ממסתבר מדקתן לסייפה שאין עליו דין פסול. מה אין עליו עדים? אילמה דליקה אליבי עדים כלל צריך למרד לפסול, אלא עליו עדי קיום. Same thing. Say that the witnesses of ratifications. That's basically what Rabbi Moshe said. גוף הסימפון שיש עליו עדים מתקיים בחומה, ואין עליו עדים, והוא יוצא מתחת שליש, או שיוצא לאחר חיתום שטרות כאשר. So now the Gemara explained the last part, יוצא מתחת די שליש. It emerges from the possession of the third party. The האם נאמר ולה שליש, because the creditor trusts the third party, the שליש, יוצא לאחר חיתום שטרות. Which means that it emerges after the signing of the documents. So after signing the documents, the Ritva explains that it means it's written within the document under the signature of the witnesses, Namei, the ilav, otherwise, the ilav, the freer, if it's not, was paid, lo have maralel ishtarei, will not have undermined his note by allowing the simfon to be written on it. So it means even sometimes the creditor writes it in advance in order to pay it right away when the guy comes to pay him, but nevertheless, he's not writing it in the shtar chov itself, in the document itself. Why? Because he doesn't want to ruin the shtar, the document. So there is a question that was asked the great posek Maharam Shik. So it was a treasurer that was also the head, the Rosh HaKahal, the president of the community, that one of the tasks he was involved was in charge for the community discretionary fund and more. And that was several years. Now, as the Rosh HaKahal, as the head of the community, that fellow appointed one of the assistants to be in charge for the distribution of the money and everything. And that happens for several years. And one time he put the very large sum of donation, and all of a sudden that assistant took the money and ran away from the community, totally disappeared. Now the question was asked, Maram Shik, did the Rosh HaKahal, the head of the community, is obligated to pay again? So Maram Shik said, he cannot be Shomer Chinam, he cannot be a garden for free. Why? Because obviously he's Shomer Sachar, the Maharamshik said, since he's the Rosh HaKahal, you have a lot of kavod, a lot of honor, a lot of advantages by being the head of the community. So therefore you appointed him in this case as a paid guardian, Shomer Sachar. And furthermore, the Maharamshik said it may be considering even a pshi'ah, meaning total negligence. Why? Why you put such amount of money in that fund, even though the head of the Kahal said that that assistant was in charge for several years, but they still claim that you put him in such an isayon, you put that young assistant to such a test that he will not be able to withstand. So anyway, it's a very fascinating teshuvah responsa from Maharam Shik, Hadran Halach Shnaim Ochazim.